So, what do you think is the most important thing that has happened this year so far in Falcon? I know obviously we've got a lot going on, but what do you think is the most important?
Well, this year's gone quick, you know. Well, so far, like we're 2 months in, last part of Q1. When you think about it, it's pretty crazy. I think it still feels like it was yesterday when we was talking about the start of the new year, and you know, momentum is important. I believe momentum is so important at the beginning. But now that we're firmly into Q1, most important thing so far is the fund, but by far, because not just the impact that will make, but more so, it wasn't just something that happened this year. It's like 16 months. It's a long time. The amount of hours, if I was to tally the amount of hours in 2020 and just the stress, like in a good way, to get things up and running, it's crazy. And there was so much persistence involved in that while putting so many different hats on, you know, because you've got business hats, investments hats, trading hats. You need to know how to navigate, and that's not easy. And you know, even myself, I still struggle with it because you're human at the end of the day. But you know, it's first round now, fully in motion, so I'm buzzing for it.
What is the main purpose for this video? What do you want to get across?
For this video, main purpose is I want people to really think about the differences between the traits of successful people and unsuccessful people. And this video is all about you prompting yourself to think about what category do you fall into. Do you fall into that category where it's very, very negative? You're not going to find a successful trader or a successful person in general that has low self-esteem. Those things, they don't go together. You don't have someone who's highly successful but thinks very low of themselves. Right, so when you understand with trading, it's the same thing. Like, you're not immune to these traits. Like, you need to know what are the successful traits of successful traders and what are the unsuccessful traits of unsuccessful traders. I've had the privilege now of coaching thousands of people over years. You learn and see common patterns within people that are more likely to succeed, those that need to just double down on things and work on what they're really good at, and also things that they're not good at and they need to remove, and that was what's going to hold them back. It's not a technical game. Technicals can be taught to anyone. It's a mental game. What's going on, guys and girls? Welcome back to another episode on the Falcon YouTube channel. Hope everyone's doing great and you've been enjoying the lives lately. We've been doing a lot of lives, engaging with you and giving you more insights as to what is in store. In this particular episode, I really want to share a couple of stories that I think will be so valuable for you on your trading journey to start thinking about where you fit and what type of trader that you actually are. And I think this is important, and I hope that you have this episode to think about where you fit in that type of category, because most people think when they get involved in trading, the goal is to become consistent and that's it. And once I learn a strategy, once I get good at a strategy, I've won. Well, the reality of this situation is very different. I've had the privilege now of coaching thousands of people, and you notice patterns. You notice patterns in people that actually do very well and find a way to ruin it. So I'm gonna go into that and hope that it gives you something to just think about in your own journey, where you are right now and what you need to double down on and what you might need to remove that is going to help you psychologically. So starting off with the first story, as I said, about people get involved in trading and you think, right, what do I need to do? I need to have a good mindset, but what I want is consistency. Whatever strategy you're learning, you want to get consistent at it. And you think, right, once I've done that, I've won. Well, many occasions where I've had this, where you'll find traders doing very well, consistent in their processes, averaging, let's say, 4% or 5%, sometimes more, even 7 or 8% a month, over a period of months. So not fluke, this is over like 6 to 8 months sometimes. What happens is they start to get this doubt. And you might be thinking, why have you got doubt? You're consistent for 6 to 8 months. This is not fluke, you don't just do that by accident. And then they find a way to give up. And you often find that it's not during the consistency, it's when they get to almost a new level where it's just about to go higher. So for example, you've been doing well for 5-6 months, people start to notice, maybe friends or family, investors, and you're in a position where you can actually take on some capital and it's really serious now, they give up. And you might be scratching your head thinking, why would they give up? But they do, and it's not the first time it's happened. It's the fear of success. If getting consistent isn't already hard enough as it is, you've won. The very thing that you want to do, you have won. And people give up then, you might be thinking, but why? You're responsible for your success. When you're in the minus and you're kind of going through the motions, there's no real expectation of where you should be because you're just not doing well. No one kind of cares. You're just in your own lane, focusing on your own journey. But when you start doing well, and let's say that you have goals to maybe retire your mum and dad and your family, and you've got all these big goals, and you start to do well, the fear starts to kick in. Think, oh, maybe this is just a fluke. What if this winning streak comes to an end? All of these psychological emotions starts to play on your mind because there's a lack of self-esteem. And I've seen it way too many times. And when we talk about things like, right, make sure your self-esteem is in place, make sure that your self-image of what you think of yourself is important, work on your affirmations, start actually affirming the person that you want to become. Sometimes that goes through one ear and out the other. They find a way to blame something at this point, or they think that, right, oh, maybe I need more knowledge now. And all it is an element of self-sabotage. So I want you to think about that on your journey. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen is just you gaining consistency alone without coupling that with your mindset. If you do not have the right mental framework in place, if you've not done the inner work, the reality is you need to work on your mindset. You need to affirm your way there. You need to make sure that everything is in place so you've got solid framework so that when you gain consistency, that's in place as well. They need to be congruent with each other. So I just wanted to share that story with you because I think that more people than you realize have actually gone through that and then found a way to just mess things up. And I would hate for that to happen because consistency is hard enough as it is. Like, you must have put in a lot of work to get there. That doesn't happen by fluke. So on your way to consistency, if you're someone right now who is a consistent trader or you're gaining some element of consistency, start to actually feel good about that. Get really present with it and start affirming that I'm doing this deliberately. I'm not just randomly plucking these trades out of thin air. Like, I've got a plan, I know what I'm doing, I've got my risk management. Start to actually acknowledge that you know what you're doing. Success is deliberate, consistency is consistency. You're a consistent person that's gonna breed into your trading. You need to start to actually reward yourself for that you know what you're doing, because self-sabotage, it's not obvious. It happens right under your nose and it's deceptive. If deception was obvious, then everyone would know it. We deceive ourselves without even realizing. So something to think about from the failure perspective, because so many people were on the brink of being incredible traders and they allowed self-sabotage to kick in. Don't make that same mistake.
And what about the successful student? Like, what was that like?
Successful students. So there's many that bring to mind, but there's a few individuals in particular. When I hear people complain that, look, I've been doing this for 6 months, I'm just quite not getting it, or I've been doing this for a year and I've been doing all the right things, but the results they're not there yet. It just makes me think that you're just not persistent enough. Sometimes that's all it is. It's just persistence, a high level of persistence. People want the magical answer, but sometimes it's very simple. You just have to be able to endure pain or frustration longer than others. And that's the difference between when people win. So been coaching someone and teaching someone for years, every reason to give up, from family stuff, all kinds of problems, and just taking a long time to learn. 1 year in, you might think, right, it's not happened for me yet. 2 years in, 3 years in, we're now going 4 years in. Very similar, I relate to this because of my own journey as well. 4 years in, and only recently really starting to break through. So through all of that, there's so many reasons along that to give up. Family saying, right, why are you doing this? Friends pointing fingers at you. You looking at your own self, managing your own dialogue, your own thoughts of thinking, is this actually going to happen for me? I've been doing this for such a long time now and it's just not happening. Am I just flirting with this idea? Is this just a pipe dream? Am I really cut out for this? The amount of self-doubt that can creep in when you're nearly 4 years in and you still haven't made the success yet, you have to have an inner belief that is so strong on your vision that you can do this, and you accept that it's just part of the progress. This is just part of my journey. I need to keep moving forward. It's going to happen for me. Not if, it will happen for me. It's just a matter of time. And I always think of that story of wow, this is what it is, because it relates so closely to my story, as that I didn't have the support network, if you like, for people to be able to lean on. I actually had everything else. I had the black and white, realistic, why are you still doing this? You're not making money out of this yet. Isn't this just a dream? Why don't you go get a real job? Why don't you go back into engineering? All these kind of comments, and you have to be able to deflect them. So it's difficult, regardless of the scenario, whether you've got a support network or not. If you have that in your ear, that's hard to deal with. So I always commend people that are persistent enough to realize, well, this is my life. I get one opportunity at this, and I'm going to remain persistent. And I'm definitely not going to build a habit of chopping and changing, because that just breeds failure. Most of you, regardless of how you're trading, have a very, very high chance of succeeding if you just persist a little bit longer and you don't allow the inner dialogue, the inner chatter, one tiny market cycle to sway you from your vision. If you've not done the mental inner game, if you've not worked on the inner framework, then you'll leave yourself in a very, very dangerous situation where it can all topple down on you. I've seen it so many times now. So that inner work of persistence, of doing the right thing in the right way, needs to be pushed even more. So wherever you're at in your journey right now, I want you to think about asking yourself better questions. Am I persistent enough? Am I just complaining for the sake of complaining? Am I judging myself on a very, very small sample size? Am I looking at the bigger picture? What traits do I currently have that other successful traders have? And what traits do I have that unsuccessful traders have? What do I need to remove and what do I need to double down on? You know, it's very black and white. You just start asking these questions. But if the ego is in the way, then that's going to hold you back as well. Because the persistent person on the successful side, ego is almost neutral, very, very low ego. And why is that important? Well, you're able to give that person constructive advice. They're teachable, they're coachable. You can say, right, this is what you're doing really well, do more of that. This is what you're doing terrible, cut that out. And they're able to not be defensive and say, okay, fair enough, perfect. That's what I need to do. And they just keep moving forward. They're just persistent. And then funny enough, they seem to break through and be successful. That's all it is. There's not always this, do A, B, and C and it will fix everything. Sometimes it is just going through the trenches, getting on with it, even if you don't have a smile on your face, but you know that at the end of that, good things are gonna happen. It's really, really that simple. So I wanted to share these two stories with you because they stick out to me a lot when I think about consistency is hard enough as it is. And if you find your way there, which many of you will, make sure that self-sabotage doesn't kick in and then just undo all of that when you were so close, you're on the brink of it. Don't allow the fear of success because you've not spent the time doing the inner work to actually hold you back. And for those of you that have so much potential to actually succeed, don't allow 1 quarter of results to get you down. You know, even if you're somebody, forget about jumping from system to system, maybe you're someone who's right now thinking that you just can't do it or you're thinking about giving up on trading. Don't allow just one little blip to hold you back. You get one opportunity at this, and I mean life, not trading, one opportunity. You may as well push through something on something that you love, that you know that it's going to give you freedom. Remember why you started in the first place. Something to have front of mind. I wanted to share these stories with you. Hope that you find them thought-provoking and useful overall. Guys and girls, I really appreciate you tuning in. Hope you learned something from this episode. Have an incredible weekend. And remember, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're both usually right.